If you kill off Picard in this first season, what's even the point of a season 2? The show's called Picard. The only reason we're watching it is because Picard's in it. Hi guys, Geezer64 here, and today we're going to be talking about episode 2 of Star Trek Picard. Yes, I haven't quite decided if I'm going to do this weekly or not, but for right now I still have some stuff to say, and I want to talk about episode 2 of Picard. For those who do not subscribe to CBS All Access, which I don't recommend, don't subscribe to that service. It's not very good. I did because I care about TNG so much, but I don't recommend it for you. However, if you guys want to check out the first episode of Picard, it is on YouTube for free. CBS put it out there for free. So check that one out. Check that out if you're interested in Star Trek Picard. But let's go ahead and jump right into this, guys. I hope you guys are ready for the truth.
Oh, geek.
True. 64.
Geek. Truth.
Geek.
True. 64. Oh, shit.
All right, guys, this is going to have spoilers, just FYI. I'm going to have spoilers in this. So we open up, and basically the first 4 minutes of this episode shows the attack on Mars that was mentioned in the first episode, where they said synthetics attacked Mars, and I guess it's still on fire forever for some reason. But in this the opening 4 minutes, we see the androids. And these androids are slaves. They're basically slaves. This was addressed in The Next Generation, in the season 2 episode, Measure of a Man. So in this, out of all the TNG episodes, this is the one they've seemed to have pulled the most from, Measure of a Man. And just check out what Picard said in this episode.
Your Honor, a courtroom is a crucible. In it we burn away irrelevancies until we are left with a pure product, the truth, for all time. Now, sooner or later, this man, or others like him, will succeed in replicating Commander data. Now, the decision you reach here today will determine how we will regard this creation of our genius. It will reveal the kind of a people we are, what he is destined to be. It will reach far beyond this courtroom and this one android. It could significantly redefine the boundaries of personal liberty and freedom, expanding them for some, savagely curtailing them for others. Are you prepared to condemn him and all who come after him to servitude and slavery? Your Honor, Starfleet was founded to seek out new life. Well, there it sits. Waiting.
So there you go. Open and shut. Open and shut. You're not going to have android slaves. But for some reason, we've got android slaves. I guess their argument is they're not really human. They don't understand jokes, and they try and slip that in there as like they don't treat them as human. They don't view them as human, and they aren't really human, and they don't have the same kind of, abilities as Data, I guess is what they're trying to say. I don't know. They look like Data. They look like a cross between Data and the people from George Lucas's THX. They've got the same eyes. They look similar. I don't understand this. I don't understand how they would go from that episode and from any of the stuff we've seen in Star Trek to having android slaves. Now, to be fair, there's actually one episode of Voyager. I'm a Trek nerd, obviously. There's an episode of Voyager in the final season where the Doctor, who is a hologram, writes a novel, and basically you have almost the same kind of thing happening, what happened in Measure of a Man, where the Doctor is questioned whether he is a sentient person, if he gets the rights of any other person. And in that, you have something that was told in previous seasons, which is that the old EMH, the EMH that the Mark 1, is they are janitors, basically. So apparently they have a bunch of holographic projectors, and they have the Doctor, or all the versions of the EMH program, cleaning in mining or whatever. They're basically used for menial labor, which is kind of weird. To me, it seems like it'd be way cheaper, and even though money doesn't exist, it seems like it'd be way easier to maintain some hollow projectors than it is to create these androids, which they've already shown that they can't really successfully create androids. So I don't know where these androids came from or who made them. They haven't explained that really yet. I was kind of hoping that they have some better explanation for the synths. They haven't so far. But the main thing here is that the fact that they use them as basically slave labor and they don't see them as people. Well, of course, one of them is hacked and is the whole reason why the whole attack happened. It's hacked by something. So this whole idea of hating synths, it's quite obvious, it seems from Starfleet, how would you not guess that it wasn't the synths that did it? It wasn't these androids that did it. There had to be an outside source influencing them. Because they're obviously built to do exactly what they do. They aren't built to think really outside of what it is they're meant to do. So the idea that they kind of pass that off is that synths are now outlawed. It doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. Again, you know, they may explain it later, but so far it doesn't make a lot of sense, and it doesn't really fit into what they showed earlier in Trek. Now, the real mystery of this is who hacked them. Now, I may have missed something, but they don't really show you. They don't really allude to it. It could be the Romulans, but why would the Romulans, the Tel Shiar, attack Starfleet and attack Mars when they're building an armada to go save their race and evacuate them from the planet? That's obviously counterintuitive to what they're trying to do, so that doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. If that's really what they're going with, I'd like to see what their explanation is. To me, it makes more sense that it's probably an enemy of the Romulans, because obviously attacking Starfleet would make them second guess committing the amount of ships that they did to saving the Romulans, right? Because where it was attacked was the shipyards. They were building the ships that they were going to use to go save the Romulans. So again, the idea that Romulans may take it out, again, I may have missed something, but that makes no sense to me. It makes more sense as some enemy of the Romulans. It could be, I don't know, some part of some other organization, Cleons, I don't know. It could be anything. Somebody who doesn't like the Romulans. It makes more sense that is the case. But yeah, so that's the whole thing with the androids. So that's only 4 minutes in. But don't worry, my video is not going to be that long because there's not a whole lot of stuff that really happens in this episode. It's very meandering. There's not a whole lot that happens. After the whole android in the opening, you get some stuff with Picard and his Romulan friends or caretakers or the couple. What I don't know, I still don't know their names yet. But they're Picard's Romulan friends, and they're looking for clues to Dahj, which is the Data's daughter that was seemingly destroyed in the first episode. But don't worry, there's another one.
Another one.
Then we get some really terrible dialogue dubbed over the shot of the Borg cube, and you see that the Borg cube is controlled by the Romulans, and they're doing some research and stuff on it. But the main thing I want to point out is this this is one of those moments where it's just bad dialogue, bad writing. As they're zooming in on this awesome shot of the Borg ship, you get like this dumb overdub of the Dahj sister, the other one. I'm just going to keep calling her the other one. I don't remember her name. Talking about how it's not a Borg cube. It's because it's separated from the collective. That's why it's not a Borg cube. It's an artifact. It's an artifact. It's an artifact. It's an artifact. That's the fact. What I just said is about as dumb as the dialogue here. There's certain moments in episode 1 and in episode 2 that have these random, really bad sections of terrible dialogue that I'm like, how did you write this? Take it seriously, film it, get somebody to say it, put it in here, and it's in the final cut. I don't understand it. It feels like CW level quality, which is pretty much inexcusable for a Trek show, but it's definitely inexcusable for for CBS, who's trying to create this as premium content behind a paywall. That's crazy to me. And when we zoom into the artifact or the Borg cube or whatever you want to call it, you see that the Dodge twin, the other one, is already sleeping with the Romulan dude they introduced in the last minute of the episode 1. She's already sleeping with him. It doesn't look like much time has passed. A couple days maybe, and that's it. So that's kind of weird because plot, I guess. Because plot. And it just feels very forced. It feels very forced because plot. Then you get the doctor who worked with Picard on the Stargazer, which the Stargazer is Picard's first command. He had that for a very long time before taking command of the Enterprise. And so he's an old friend, and he gives Picard the news that he's got some kind of illness that's basically terminal, and he's not going to live, and there's no real treatment. There's no cure for it. There's some treatments, but there's no cure for it. You're like, okay, of course we're going to go with that. Picard's going to die from some illness because, and they're like, well, I hope you die in a different way and you don't die from this if you're lucky. If he actually dies from this thing, that's ridiculous. First off, just don't kill off Picard. If you kill off Picard in this first season, what's even the point of a season 2? The show's called Picard. The only reason we're watching it is because Picard's in it. We don't care. No matter what they do, even if the new characters introduced are awesome, which I highly doubt they will be, they can't carry the show. Patrick Stewart carries this show. That's the only reason why I keep watching. Again, nothing so far in episode 1 and 2 is really bad or anything. It's better than Discovery, but there's nothing really stand out as good. If Jean-Luc Picard, Patrick Stewart, was not in this show, I would not care about it. It's straight up. I wouldn't care about it. There's nothing here that's very interesting. And then we get Picard going to Starfleet, and you get the old Trek music, the original series Trek music. It's obviously remixed a little bit, but that's the music. And I was like, oh man, wow, it's Star Trek. I didn't know that was possible. And you see, as he goes in the lobby, there's a shot of the original Enterprise, Captain Kirk's Enterprise, as well as his Enterprise, Enterprise D, which is right back there. And why is he going to Starfleet? He wants to talk to the Admiral. He wants to get a ship so he can go out and find Dodge's twin sister, who's somewhere out there. He has no idea where to look, but he knows he needs a ship because they're not on the planet, which is what they found out earlier in the episode. And he's like, I just need a ship, and I know we've had differences and blah, blah. And that's when the Admiral drops the F-bomb. An Admiral in Starfleet drops the F-bomb. A Star Trek show drops the F-bomb. No. That's not Star Trek. It feels so out of place, so forced. Yeah, you're on a streaming service, so you can do whatever you want. So like, yeah, let's drop the F-bomb. That's edgy. It's dumb. It doesn't fit in with anything, and I don't like it. And the reason the Admiral drops the F-bomb, sorry, it's like wait out of that. The reason that she drops the F-bomb is she's really pissed because Picard basically trashed Starfleet in the news, and then he comes asking for favors, and you're like, all right, I kind of get it. And then they argue about the whole Romulan thing, and you kind of get Starfleet's point of view, which is what I said in episode 1. I was really afraid they were just going to make Starfleet out to be this evil organization, but that's really not the case. Picard and Starfleet just have a different outlook on how things should have been handled, and neither one is inherently right or wrong. They're just looking at different sides of the problem. I mean, most people would say, yeah, you need to save the Romulans, but and it makes sense that you would want to save the Romulans, because anybody who's a Trek fan would know that, yeah, they've been an enemy, but they helped in DS9 against the Dominion. Nemesis, which is the last Star Trek movie, dealt with the Romulans, which basically created a more collaborative step towards the Romulans and the Starfleet. So they basically were not the same kind of enemies they were when they first showed up in TNG. So that whole idea of them being mortal enemies is true to a certain extent, but I mean, anybody who's a follower of Trek can tell that they were moving in a direction where they could be friends, just like how the Klingons were. So that doesn't, I don't know if I understand that argument. I understand parts of the Federation were like, we don't want to help them. And, so again, you kind of get both sides here, but Picard did trash Starfleet in the news, so the Admiral is understandably upset about it. But no matter what, dropping the F-bomb in Star Trek is stupid. It's dumb. Don't ever do that again. The other thing that happens in this episode, and this happened in episode 1, and I didn't mention it in that review, was that there's terms used that totally take me out of the atmosphere of Star Trek. They take me out of the world of Star Trek and put me in a boring sci-fi from 2020. And what do I mean by that? In the first episode, you had Dodge saying, dude. No. Dude. Yes, she said dude. No, these terms don't exist in Star Trek. And yes, it's kind of nitpicking. I understand that. But what it comes to is that you're trying to build an atmosphere and you're trying to get people invested in the world that you're trying to build. And people who are Trek fans are very familiar with that world. And when you have people using terms that people would use nowadays, like dude, it's dumb. And the same thing happens in this one where you had an alien go onto the Borg ship and look at that Romulan dude and say, something to the effect of Romulans are hot. And I'm just like, no. They wouldn't say anyone's hot. You could say attractive. That's a general term that doesn't age. Hot usually has a description other than being attractive. And it's just a term that it'd be phased out over hundreds of years. And it's never been used in Star Trek before. The whole point of Star Trek is that we're so far advanced. Even the terms we use, they don't have slang, basically. There's not really any slang. And when you just use current day slang in Star Trek, it totally takes you out of what's going on. I know it's kind of nitpicky, but both in episode 1 and in episode 2, it took me out of what was going on. And then you get Picard, who just leaves after this conversation, which is kind of throwaway. A lot of these, I think that's what's weird, is that in episode 1, you had a lot of stuff happening super fast. The first half of that episode I was really into, well-paced. It focused on Picard. You got caught up on what was happening, and then they just threw like a million things in your face in the second half. This one is very slow. Not a whole lot happens. You're like, why couldn't you make this pacing work with what you threw at us in the episode 1? I guess their ideal was that they want episode 1 to be the hook, so we're going to throw all the mysteries at you in that one to get you to pay for CBS All Access. That's the only thing that makes sense to me, because you had so much crap happening there, and then there's nothing happening really in episode 2. But anyway, you get Picard, and he obviously still needs a ship because the Admiral's not going to give it to him. So he goes and meets some woman who doesn't like him for some reason, which we'll find out because we need more mysteries, I guess. I'm sure we'll find out in the next episode. I hope that's not another thing that they wait till later on in the show to explain. Just explain it. Just explain why she doesn't like him. I'm pretty sure it'll be solved in the next episode, but just want to throw that out there. Then we also get Romulans. The Romulans are moles in Starfleet. Now, the Admiral contacts somebody and says, oh, well, Picard came to me and is talking about the Tal Shiar and all this other stuff or whatever. And you find out that there's Romulan moles. There's Romulan moles in Starfleet because why not, right? And not only the Romulan moles, but they've also been surgically altered to look like humans, or at least one of them has. And then you get her going to, apparently she's the sister of the Romulan you met in the end of the first episode and the one sleeping with Data's daughter. They're trying to find this synth and learn about it, basically, because they're pissed that the last, because Dodge got killed and they wanted to interview it and learn about it, and they killed it and they destroyed it. So now they're like, all right, well, we're gonna do things differently here. And then it ends. That's the end of the episode. It just happens so abruptly. The ending to this was so jarring. It was just like in the middle, almost like in the middle of a sentence. It was just like, black, Star Trek Picard on the next episode. And you're like, that was it? That's how you ended the episode? What? So again, I know a lot of this it seems kind of negative. The overall review for this episode, I wouldn't say is negative. I wouldn't say it was positive either. It's very middle of the road. I preferred episode 1, I think, to episode 2. But I'm still interested to see where it goes. I just hope it gets to going somewhere soon. And I hope where it takes us is someplace good. That'd be nice. It'd be nice to get something that's decent. At this point, I will take average. If it's an average Star Trek, that's okay. because most first seasons of Star Trek usually are not the greatest, and they improve over time. Same thing happened with Enterprise. I was not into Star Trek Enterprise when it was released, and I gave up on it, I think, in the first season. After the first season, I was done. But after Discovery came out, I was like, this is terrible. I hate this. And I was like, well, I never saw Enterprise. I never finished watching it, so I'm going to go back and watch it. And I watched it. Season 3 and 4 are great Trek. I kind of sad I gave up on it because those were good, especially good compared to what we're getting now. They're great. So I don't know. We'll see what they do with this. But I don't know. What did you guys think? What did you guys think about episode 2 of Picard? Hopefully you checked it out. Otherwise, I just ruined it by telling you everything that happens in it. But I want to thank you guys for sticking around this video. Thank you, subscribers, for being awesome. And if you like this video, please like, comment, subscribe, share, do all the YouTube stuff, or don't. I'm not a beggar. I'm Geechu64, and I always tell you the truth.